Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I'd like to repeat that all attendees are in listen-only mode. We will have questions in the question box if you have any during the webinar. Today, we've invited Altec to show you their document management solution, DocLink. The goal is to show you a more effective way to manage everyday business processes by going paperless. We'd love for the session to be as interactive as possible, so if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to type that into the chat box. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Kurt Hickson, Altec's Sales Director for the Central Region.
Thank you very much, Kelly, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me during your lunch hour. As Kelly mentioned, we're going to be walking through a presentation of going digital with DocLink for Sage 100. Really, the idea here is to give you a better idea of what DocLink is and what the capabilities are and how it can help streamline your business processes. So what we'll go ahead and do is I like to always start with this screen to kind of get the gears shifted a little bit and get you in the right mindset of document management, right? So as you know, we all live in a world of a data-driven world, right? A world of instant access, if you will. So if you see here, this is a good picture that really shows, this is off of liveinternetstats.com, but this shows how much data is actually flowing currently, right? So people are searching things on Google, they're sending emails, Twitter, Instagram, all that, right? And it's all just a couple clicks of a button. And they can find information they're looking for. However, when we go into the office or a place of work, it seems like this notion of instant access simply goes out the door, right? We completely lose track of where things are. It's a hard time to find what we need to get our job done in a timely manner. But for whatever reason, we've always just said, it is what it is. It's just how work is, right? Well, it doesn't have to be that way, right? It doesn't need to be hard to get things done. You should be able to streamline your processes like we do in the outside world. Now we want to have that similar functionality as we would outside the office. So let's talk about this. The reason why you're probably experiencing some of these pains in terms of, not having that instant access or not knowing where anything is probably because it starts with where you're storing your documents, right? So today, if you're storing your documents in a filing cabinet, you're probably backed up, you're slow, there's some, inefficient processes going on there. Maybe you've taken the next step, you're doing that network file share scenario. This probably works out good for a couple days, maybe a week or so. Naming conventions get into play. Security is a big issue here. So the third step is going to be software, right? Maybe you've already taken that step. Maybe you're using a solution a day. It's not as robust. Maybe it doesn't have integration, right? So that's really what we want to talk about is this last piece, the software piece, right? So it really doesn't matter how you're storing these documents without DocLink. I'm sure if you're not using a solution like ours, you're going to be facing problems like this that I'm showing here. Now, these problems are just, a few that we hear. They're common problems, if you will, when we were talking with, customers or prospects, someone that's interested in using DocLink. The thing is maybe there's some of this pertains to you, and maybe there's some other pains that you're experiencing that are shown here. The idea here is DocLink is an enterprise-wide solution, so we can be used across the enterprise. So really what we're doing is we're going to be breaking down silos of business data, right? We want to get rid of that. So marketing isn't going to use, network file share, and accounting is not going to use, filing cabinets, right? So the idea here is having people have instant access to information. We're going to talk about this more as we move along. Inefficient workflows. We're going to talk about how we can create a better workflow, a better process for you, right? Inefficiencies, lack of visibility, compliance, and then as well, we always want to figure out ways to maximize profits, right? So these are the problems we face, and these are the things that DocLink can solve, among many other things that you're probably thinking about right now. So if you are seeing these three questions pop up when you're shaking your head or maybe raising your hand, that yes, these are things that affect me, right? A manual process in terms of touching, moving, filing. Again, those inefficient type workflows, manual process. If you're touching a piece of paper physically and you're leaving that on someone's desk, that is a big, big no-no. And then lastly, if you're spending a lot of time doing data entry, this is something we can help out with. So you're in the right place if these things are, you're saying yes to any of these things. So we need to talk about DocLink, and I'm going to touch on each of these individually as we go along here, because this is really the core of what document management is. So what DocLink is, it's the ability to capture documents that come into the organization. From there, we're going to be able to search and retrieve that information, much like your instant access outside of the organization, right? When you're doing Google searches and things like that, right? You'll be able to drill down on other documents. It's very simple. I'll show you what that looks like as we move along. And then we're going to be able to now apply some processes, right? We're going to use workflow. We're going to use this as a tool to move documents or drive documents throughout the enterprise, right? For whether that's visibility, maybe it's approvals, things like that. And that, since we have all that information in a nice, neat repository, we're going to be able to send the documents out in an automated fashion. So we're talking a little more on the AR side, sales orders, things like that, right? We can set up automation to send those documents out, or you can send them out as one-offs as well. And one last thing that DocLink is, it has the ability to create documents within the software itself. And the way we do that is called Smart Forms, and it's our Smart Form Toolkit. This is a module that you can use to do document creation. So any paper-based form that you're using today can simply be replaced with a window within DocLink, and no longer will you have a need for that paper-based form. So if you're thinking about expense reports and things like that, if you're using Excel, maybe AP check requests, right? We can get rid of that, streamline that process, get rid of that paper, and everybody is happy, right? So this is what DocLink is at its core, right? The ability to capture, search and retrieve, process through workflow, automated delivery, and some document creation as well. So let's talk about each individually a little more to give you a better idea of what exactly this does. But one thing I want to touch on before we start talking about search and retrieve, capture, and everything is the fact that we have a seamless integration with Sage 100. Now, DocLink enables you to build upon your investment on Sage 100 and make that a more powerful tool. We're going to utilize Sage 100, and we're going to be able to push and pull data, if you will. We're going to be able to pull information, pull out vendor codes, account codes, things like that, directly from Sage 100 and attach it to a document that resides in the DocLink repository. We'll talk about this a little bit more here. So the nice thing is you are building upon your initial investment in Sage 100. So if you're using a product that doesn't necessarily integrate yet, you're probably missing out. And let's talk about this. Oftentimes, our integration is going to start in accounting. So as I mentioned a little bit ago, our product is enterprise-wide, right? I'm going to start with accounting here, and I'm slowly going to cover all the bases of what DocLink can do. But as I do that, please keep in mind that this isn't an AP solution only. This goes enterprise-wide. So if we're talking HR, AR, things like that, right? But let's start in accounts payable for now, and then we'll move forward as we go along. So for accounts payable, right, I think the big issues, and we kind of touched on that, and those business problems everyone faces, right, is, being able to find documents. They want timely approvals. They want to, eliminate data entry, or at least minimize it, right? We can definitely do that with a couple different ways. So touching on our integration with Sage 100, what you're seeing here is a snapshot of our GL distribution stamp. And this is really where integration kind of starts with us. This is a document that has been captured. This is a non-PO invoice. So what's going on here, on the left side, you obviously are seeing an invoice. On the right side, you're seeing what we call our GL distribution stamp. Now you'll see that there is some header information that's been filled in. All this information has been captured by a capture method, and now is being reused as we're starting to code this document. The nice thing here is we're going to be leveraging the information you have set up in Sage, since that's your accounting system of record, right? We're going to be able to drill back down and pull account codes, account names, vendor names, and things like that very easily from a drop-down. You might see where the highlighted portion is and the number, there's a little box next to that. If you were to click on that, it would pull down a drop-down of all those account codes that you can choose from. Now, one thing I do want to point out is this GL SmartForm can be routed around the organization. So you can kind of spread the work out. So if you want approving managers to do their own coding on their invoices, they can do so. And they would have the option to do exactly that. And the nice thing is with our integration, we can actually shorten the list of account codes and things like that. So if it does go to an approving manager, he or she is only going to see the account codes that really pertain to their role or their department rather. This helps streamline that process because it eliminates the thinking, right? They only have a couple account codes to choose from. It minimizes the errors and again makes everybody happy. So this is the nice thing about this is it is outside of Sage currently. It's being routed around through workflow. People are coding it. Once it goes back to AP, they'll look it once over, then code it, and then what they'll do is they can post to a batch within Sage, and then if they go into Sage, they can process that batch. It's a very, very powerful tool, and it's a very cool tool as well. So that's for outside of Sage. So now when you're inside the ERP itself, here's another kind of snapshot. This is going to be an AP invoice entry screen, and you want to recall an invoice. You don't have to necessarily jump out of Sage and log into DocLink to find that information. When you are in these screens within Sage 100, you'll see that there is a View Documents button that is highlighted or circled with that green circle, and you're going to be able to click on that, and you're going to be able to recall that invoice. And when you recall that invoice, it's simply going to launch it on your screen, no jumping between two platforms necessarily. And then from there, you can even drill down to any supplemental document that is attached to that invoice. So maybe you're searching for a purchase order, you'd be able to pull up the invoice, maybe delivery receipt, packing slip. And I'll show you a little bit more of what that looks like along the way. But the nice thing here is for the folks that live in Sage on a daily basis, so we're talking AP clerks and things like that, they can access documents directly from DocLink without ever having to leave Sage, which is great. And getting instant access, right? So AP, you don't want people having to call you saying, hey, is this invoice been paid or what's going on with this? You can simply look up that information yourself, and we have various ways of doing this. We have just your standard desktop application. We have a web client, and we also have a mobile app functionality to search documents. This is all based on security, right? People have permissions, so they're not going to be able to just search for anything they want. They're only going to be able to search for things that pertain to their role. So this is a secure solution. If you have multiple companies set up in Sage today and an end user logs on, maybe they're only going to be able to see information pertaining to one company. Maybe some are going to be able to see information pertaining to all the companies that are in Sage, right? Again, you're only going to be able to see the documents that pertain to your role. Simple example, AP is only going to see AP documents. HR is only going to see HR documents, right? And this is very simple to configure to give people other rights if you want. Compliance. So again, this is a big one. Want to touch on it briefly, but we have all that information that is stored in that document repository. If you get hit with an audit and they give you, hey, we want to see these documents from this date to this date, you can go ahead and enter that into DocLink, search for those, download it, put it on a CD, a USB, or even give that auditor access to DocLink. You're only giving them access to what they have asked for. So the nice thing is there's no more prep for those audits. There's no more refiling once those audits are over, and you're making it that audit very simple, getting them, that auditor very simple, right? Getting them in and out of the organization in a fast and timely manner. Timely approvals. This is big for AP, right? And just helping processes all together. So we can eliminate late penalties, get automated reminders, right? That, hey, you need to approve this invoice. So if you're doing this in a manual fashion of printing it out and leaving it on somebody's desk, chances are you're probably having to follow up on it yourself, right? Whether you're walking back over to that individual or maybe you're shooting them an email and saying, hey, where is this? Can I get this approval? I need to process this, right? We can do all that nagging or bugging via the software itself. But the nice thing here is you're going to be able to approve a document directly from your email provider. So you'll see that a little example of an Outlook email there. You'll see there's some information in the body, and then there's an attached document. That attached document is going to be a purchase order, or not a purchase order, an invoice rather, excuse me, non-PO, and then that's simply going to be an approve and deny button they would simply be able to click to move along to the next step. From a mobile device, it's a similar process, right? They'll get an alert that they have a document they need to approve. They can approve and deny it. They can also apply notes to that as well. So again, really making it easy for people to approve documents and move them through the organization very quick. We also have workflow delegation. So if anyone is out of the organization, you can simply push your workflow to one of your colleagues to help out while you are gone, right? So that's nice as well. Capture. So let's start talking about ways of bringing documents in, right? We talked about AP, kind of touched on that. Wanted to touch on that initially because I feel like that is a low-hanging fruit. I would say about 9 times out of 10, the folks that are interested in document management are interested in helping streamline AP processes. But here's the thing is now we're starting to get to the point where you're going to be looking at this as a solution that can go well beyond that. And it really starts with our basic functionalities, right? Which is, again, one of them will be capture. So let's talk about this a little bit. We have various ways of capturing documents. You're not only going to be able to scan documents in or do an email capture. We have other ways of doing so. So the capture options we provide are here on the left-hand side. So we'll start from top to bottom here, email and fax. So email is a very commonly used way of capturing invoices, right? Or any document for that matter. But we can monitor a designated email inbox, bring that document in. From there, someone could either code the document, not necessarily code, that would be the wrong term here. They would actually be applying index values, right? So they're going to be doing a little bit of data entry, not a ton, but enough. Also, we're going to be able to pull some of the information that resides from the ERP and attach it again to this invoice, or in this case, it's a purchase order. And then the nice thing is if it resides in the ERP, we use what we would call auto retro index to pull that information over to reduce and minimize keystrokes, right? We have what we would call capture. So this makes a little more sense for this purchase order that we see on the screen. So any document, especially if you're creating a purchase order out of Sage today, when you go to print that, we can actually capture that via print, and we'll store it in the repository. And when we do, you're going to see all these purple diamonds on the right-hand side follow that document. It's been created in Sage. We're just putting it in our repository. There's no data entry that needs to be done, which is nice. It's already going to flow over from what was entered into the ERP. We have drag and drop. So if there's a document that is saved on your desktop, you can simply drag it over the DocLink Smart Client, drop it in, and it is going to launch this viewer. From there, you would apply some index values. We have a scan. So if you're getting anything in the mail, obviously you'd open it up, throw that stack of mail or invoices that you get in the mail on that scanner, bring them into DocLink, and you'll proceed with your indexing. And then there's barcode, right? If you barcode, see this a lot of manufacturing, we can leverage that with our barcode module. And then last but not least, probably the most talked about way of capturing documents today is OCR. OCR is a great tool. It is for high volume customers though. So we're talking people that are dealing with invoices ranging from, we'll say 2,000 to 5,000 a month and up, right? That's where you really start seeing the OCR, because I'm going to be perfectly candid here. This can be an expensive tool. However, it does work well. It works well with first generation documents, meaning PDFs coming directly from a customer or a vendor and bringing those into DocLink. So these are the ways of capturing documents, right? So we're capturing all kinds of documents. That capture that I spoke on, I know we talked about the scenario of capturing a purchase order, but this could be anything, right? It could be a sales order. It could be an HR document that has been created through an HR solution. And we could pull that in and bring it into DocLink, right? Very, very powerful stuff. And then last, we do have, again, that mobile application that is going to allow you to capture information on the go. So in this case, a lot of scenarios, you're going to see mobile receipts for expense reports, and then anything else that you might think of that you would need to capture and bring in via the mobile app. So again, we've captured that information. We have given you access through many different devices, right? Different platforms, from the ERP, from that mobile app, from the web client, from the desktop. So let's take a look at what that looks like, right? So this is what we would call our smart client. This is where you would go in and you would actually search for a document. You'll see that here under company, there's actually 2 companies set up, but in this case, we're only going to be searching for documents within Fabricam. You see that the document types below are all AP documents. So this leads me to believe that John that's logged in here, he is an AP. These are the only documents he can see. So he wants to go ahead and search for an AP invoice. He knows what that invoice number is, so he's going to go ahead and input that number and recall that document or search for it, right? So you see here the document searched, pulled up that invoice he was searching for. Now you're going to see that there's a PO that is associated with this invoice. So if he were to go over there and click on that, you see a hyperlink. If he were to click on that hyperlink, what happens? It actually pulls all the information that is attached to that purchase, that AP invoice number. So now you're going to see that there's a purchase order and a signed delivery receipt that it drilled down and came back up with the search as well. If you wanted to open these up in a side-by-side fashion, you can simply do so by highlighting and opening those all. This kind of works for a manual 3-way match, right? Double checking work, things like that. The nice thing is it's very simple to do, right? You saw it was simply searching for one document and you were able to pull up the associated documents with that. And then lo and behold, what we have the check that was cut as well. So the ability here is you're doing a lot with very little. And it is very powerful. That search and retrieve is very easy to do. So if you are in customer service, you get a quick phone call from somebody saying, hey, we never received this invoice, never received a receipt. Someone could look that up fairly quickly, and they could even email it directly from one of these screens simply. So workflow, I don't want to get too much in the weeds here, but workflow is really what drives the business, right? Once these documents get captured, you're going to be able to send these things around. And just to give you a quick idea, this is what a workflow looks like behind the scenes. I don't want to, again, get bogged down into the weeds, but it's very simple to configure, and your admin, that is your DocLink admin, would be able to configure these on their own, and we do provide training on that. Again, with the ability through workflow, you're going to have approvals from your mobile device, emails, things like that. Workflow delegation, I did touch on this, but I do want to kind of circle back to it because it is something that is very, very positive, and it can be help out the organization greatly when people are out of the organization. So say you're on maternity leave, you're sick, you're on vacation, you can simply delegate a workflow to a colleague or a different end user for them to approve on your behalf while you're out of the organization. Here's the good thing, is that person that was out of the office for that duration of time, when they come back, they're not swamped. They're not sitting trying to play catch up, right? It's all been pretty much done for them on the behalf of the delegate. And then not only that, you're not creating any bottlenecks in your process in terms of being affected and late payments and things like that. You're able to keep the business moving while that individual is out of the organization. So very, very good tool to have. Automated delivery. So again, this is more on maybe on that, you see this on the AR side, things like that. But the idea here is that any document that resides within DocLink, they're going to be able to send this out. And we'll be able to do it in a timed manner, automated fashion, or again, one-offs. So just a quick example of this, as I mentioned, I know that your ERP today will be able to send out a document. However, we'll be able to send out not only that document you're sending out, but a supplemental document as well. So here's the invoice, and here's that delivery receipt, right? So as I mentioned, DocLink is a powerful tool. It's a modular tool. There's a lot of different things it can be used for. Different departments it can be spread apart, spread across, right? So it's not just AP, as I keep mentioning. So I'm sorry for being redundant there, but I also want to provide you and talk a little bit more about customer ROI, because once you start thinking about DocLink, and at first you're initially thinking it's going to be for AP, and you can quickly realize that it can be spread into other organizations, there's other areas that you can look for ROI with, right? Maybe today you're starting in AP, but you know a year down the road you're going to start involving HR, right? So the ROI is there. You just need to think about it a little bit. So if you're doing any type of offsite storage, it might not be to the tune of $85,000 we see here in storage and retrieval fees, right? Maybe it's $10,000, maybe it's $15,000. Regardless, you're still spending a lot of money on storing paper, right? All the fees that are associated. We can get rid of that, if not eliminate it, right? So if you're doing this type of storage, we need to talk a little further. Postage. This is a big one, and I think a lot of people, I'm actually at a conference this week, and I had a conversation with an individual, and they had bought a stamp machine, basically, because they sent out so much information, and I was just like, we can use Output Manager to get rid of that entirely, right? Because postage gets expensive, right? So if you're sending out information to your customers, but you're doing it in the mail, all the postage adds up. If you have multiple locations where you're sending information between those with a courier service, right? If you have, we'll say, 5 different locations spread throughout the city, county, or state that you're in, and you're physically mailing in invoices from those disparate or those different locations to maybe a corporate office, that, I guarantee, is a lot of money. Over time, if you did the math, in an annual basis, you're probably spending close to $10,000, maybe a little less, maybe even more. You don't know, because you don't think it's that much, because you just think it's a stamp. It's not that expensive. Oh, it's just FedEx. It's only a couple bucks. All that adds up over time, obviously. You can always add headcount without necessarily having to add somebody just to do, we'll say, data entry, right? So if you're going to add somebody, you're going to add somebody that's going to help really benefit your company. You don't want to just hire somebody to come in and do filing, data entry, things like that. So we can increase other areas of efficiencies with DocLink, allowing your company to expand properly, right? So the streamlined approvals, those are big wins for AP. Across the board, we kind of already, I talked about this, kind of just circling back to AP, like once again, is, those streamlined approvals, the GL account codes, again with that GL distribution stamp. We can do viewing supporting documents, workflow delegation. Again, we're leveraging the information that resides in that accounting record and system. So Sage 100, we're going to utilize all that existing data, right? So why DocLink? And reason point case being is you're building upon your initial investment, Sage 100. It is a world-class product. We are in Sage endorsed product. So Sage actually touts us as the integrated or vendor of choice when it comes to document management. We have rapid implementations. We try to move as fast as you can, within reason, of course. And then lastly, customer support. We have our own support issues. You don't have to go through Sage. You go straight to us. We're available 24/7, 365. We have customers that are worldwide, so we have to be available at all times. So we try to make sure our customers are happy all the time. We don't want an upset customer. Customers are what keep our business afloat, so we want to make sure they are a priority, and we treat them as we should, and we give them world-class service. So I went through this fairly quickly, so we're going to give some folks some time back in their day, but I do want to open it up to questions. So Kelly, were there any questions that came through I can address?
No questions yet. Does anybody have anything? How can I acquire DocLink?
Very simple. We would actually work with Vrakas on this. We would just need a conversation. All orders of software would get purchased through Vrakas Blum themselves, but you would work, however, with myself to make sure all the modules are correct in what you need to accomplish you're trying to get done.
All right. What if we do PO in another program?
Yeah, not a problem. So as I mentioned with that perm capture, no matter where that purchase order is being created, so maybe it's created in Excel today, maybe it's through another PO requisition system, we can work with that. We can capture that PO and bring it into DocLink, no issues.
Perfect. Does this work with other programs besides MAS or Sage?
Yes, we do have integrations, about 17 different integrations across the ERP platforms out there. Again, Sage, we integrate across the board to their ERP platforms as well. So to answer your question, yes, we have a lot of integration.
Perfect. And what is the cost for this product?
Oh, that's always the fun question, right? And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this product is, once again, it's modular based. So we need to have that initial conversation of what you're trying to accomplish. Because again, if it's simple AP stuff, you're dealing 100% non-POs, it's going to be, inexpensive. If you're dealing, AP, but you're dealing heavy on the PO side and you're getting a lot of invoices coming in, purchase orders, it could be a little bit more depending on what type of tools you're using. So we would just need to have a conversation. I can give you a better answer. So I do apologize for not really giving you the answer you want.
Will this work for general document management, not just accounting?
Absolutely. So again, this is enterprise-wide. We could do some content management. We can store any type of document in this in its native format. So if you're dealing with JPEGs, movie files, things like that, AutoCAD drawings, all that fun stuff can be stored in here. There's version control and all that fun stuff as well.
All right. If historical documents are scanned in from another source, can they be added to DocLink without needing to rescan?
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways we would need to look into that. If it's a simple just XML file that we can pull and bring in, we should be able to bring in all that corresponding data with it. So there's no re-indexing or anything like that. We could leverage Import Manager and do that. So that would, again, just need to see where that information is coming from. And we've done this a lot in the past with people moving off of different products and whatnot. So we just need to have a little conversation to make sure that we're able to pull that info in.
All right. Can DocLink data be integrated with a web-based customer portal to provide customer access to their related documents?
Yeah, through our web client, they would have the ability to do that. So yes.
The historical documents would be in searchable PDF format?
So they're going to be stored in TIFF. However, if they came in as a PDF, they would be able to, as long as that native application is on that device they're searching the document for. So if it did come in PDF and they do have Adobe on their computer, it will launch as a PDF. So yes.
Well, that covers all the questions we have so far. Anyone else? All right. Well, we will be posting this webinar on our website soon, so look for that. Also, we'd like to thank Kurt for taking the time out today. We really appreciate you doing this today. And if anybody else has any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Steve Merrick. Steve's email address is there on the screen now. So we thank you all for taking time out of your day and hope you have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.